Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
Hello and welcome back. This is Wendy Babcock with the One Stories podcast, and I'm joined today with Brittany. Welcome, Brittany.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I would have pronounced your last name, but I seem like I always get it wrong, so I'll let you let you say your full name.
It is Brittany Nyenhuis.
Nyenhuis. I always want to say house for some reason at the end.
You wouldn't be the first or the
Okay.
last.
Okay. Well, good. So I just want to jump in and have you introduce yourself. And I know you're kind of like in a messy middle currently. So do we want to talk a little bit about where you're at and what you're either doing or what you're planning to do?
I would love that. As you mentioned, I am in the messy middle. That seems to be my thing more often than not. I am owner of Human Element Consulting, so I am an independent HR consultant that helps small and mid-sized businesses with all their HR needs. But I also recently launched Love Your Mess, which is what my story is mostly about. And it will be an online community with a number of women entrepreneurs that will gather to help support other women who just need to be seen or help to step into who they are, or just to know that sometimes there's hope out there for whatever it is they're going through.
So tell me a little bit about, so you work with small businesses now with HR. What does that look like? Do you go into their business or are you more of a consultant?
It's a combination of both. It depends on what their needs are. There are some businesses that I truly function more as a consultant. They call me on an as needed basis. There are some where I am a plug and play. So maybe they are in between HR professionals, or they know they need to hire someone but doesn't know quite what that looks like yet. I can easily step in, fill that gap, help them identify what their needs are, and then help them hire that professional. And then there's some where it's truly ongoing HR support, both from an administrative standpoint and a strategic standpoint. So the strategic side is my favorite, the workforce planning. I have a fantastic assessment platform called Cloverleaf where I can come in. That seems to be a feature that employers love. There's 10 different assessments all in one platform for their employees, and it helps build that team and identify maybe spots where there's conflict on teams.
Oh, okay. So HR obviously probably deal with, or the companies you're working with probably have conflict and things that they're dealing with kind of their messy middle, especially if they're in transition. So I feel like you kind of shine in that area anyways. Maybe the middle person, in the
My
mess.
jam.
It is your jam. I love that. Um, so where did the Love Your Mess come from? I mean, everyone who's on here, I don't know if we won't know if they've seen your story, but we are going to play Brittany's one story after this. But tell us a little bit about how did that get created?
Yeah, that is a great question. And it was a couple years in the making, to be honest. The last couple years have been really hard for me personally, just going through my own personal growth spurt, trying to figure out what it is I want out of life and the relationships I have in my life. And so a good chunk of it comes from finding myself naturally being surrounded by incredible women who just happen to be entrepreneurs. Um, I talk about in my story how the universe places people in my place or in my path at the right time. And so there are other individuals that have been going through similar things, and we don't talk about it. I felt so lonely in so many spaces of my life, and people are either embarrassed or feel ashamed. I have a counseling background. I'm like, no, let's talk about this. And so it's diving into the nitty gritty mess of it all. Again, wanting women to be seen. Um, Anything from jobs, marriage, children. I've gone through therapy, and then being a business owner, I've gone through coaching as well to help gain clarity on what I want out of life and how to work through that.
I feel like with all the entrepreneurs, small businesses, and women out there, anyone who's trying to show up like their life is perfect is lying. You know?
100%.
Nobody has it completely together. I don't care how they show up on social media or up on stages. Like they have a messy somewhere in their lives. And I feel like it's great to have people like you who are bringing out it's okay to show the mess. I think personally that's what connects us and that's what makes us more relatable than look at me, my perfect house and my perfect business and I'm making the perfect amount of money to have my perfect vacations. Like nobody wants to even see that, I don't think.
I would agree. And I would even say that all the things that we view as being taboo really aren't that taboo. It's just that
Yeah.
people haven't been talking about it. And so I want to break that shell and break that mold and normalize some of these conversations.
So are you seeing a shift in both the HR point and the messy middle, not the messy middle, the love your mess, like with the entrepreneurs? Is there a shift of people just craving more realness? Is that where some of this is born out of too?
I think there is. And I'm not sure what has caused it. I have a couple different theories. I think one, there are a lot of women like myself who hit their late 30s, early 40s, and they're just done with all the BS in life. And they're ready to shed who they were. They're ready to shed all the things that they conform to because we were told we needed to conform to. So I think that's one part of it. I think the other part is these younger generations that are coming up, and this is a part of Love Your Mess too, giving back to these younger generations and helping girls develop into strong, competent women is they have a different type of craving for connection. And so,
Mm.
how do we meet them where they're at? And research also shows us that coming out of COVID, girls haven't rebounded in the areas of courage and bravery like boys have and connectedness. And so, I want to be able to provide, again, that platform to help foster that, to help women and girls know that they're not alone. The things that they're feeling, the things that they are going through or experiencing it it's normal and it's okay. And if you feel like you're alone or that you can't figure it out, sometimes it's just one foot in front of the other and you keep moving and you will find your people to
Yeah,
support that.
that's such a good point. And I think with the pandemic, I'm sure there's going to be lots of studies down the line around what that did to people, the isolation, the distance, even just standing 6 feet from other people.
Mhm.
I think psychologically that did something to us as a society. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, it definitely did. Even things like eye contact, younger generations right now in the workforce, research has shown that if they receive a phone call or if somebody makes consistent eye contact with them, they view it as aggressive,
Oh,
which is something, again, I never would have thought of. But
yeah.
those are different challenges and things that we'll be facing as the years go on, I'm sure.
Oh, that's interesting. And so I think with what you do with the connection and the love your mess, it brings people together. And I think it'll help them communicate on a different level so that maybe the eye contact, we can kind of bridge that gap and not having anxiety like you want to throw up because somebody's calling your phone instead of texting you.
Right? Yes,
Yeah,
and I'm hoping to provide it in different platforms that fit not only for the entrepreneurs, but for the other half of the community that I'm calling my lovies, for lack of a better word,
I love that.
where they can consume this information how it feels best for them, whether it's through e-learning opportunities, whether it's through written stories, maybe podcasts down the road,
Yeah.
um, providing multiple mediums to fit the needs of whoever is listening.
Yeah, I bet you could even do an in-person sometime too down the road and get people in the same room together and work on some of those things.
Would be my favorite thing.
Yeah, I like being in person. I think that was the thing too with the pandemic is everything was virtual and we got very comfortable being virtual. And then getting to person again in person, there was new challenges. Like, okay,
Yes,
are we gonna elbow bump, fist bump? Do we shake? What are we gonna do?
right. 100%.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about your one story. Okay. And what was that like for you? Because I mean, it's hard for most people to tell their story, and yours shifted a little bit too,
I
from where
did.
you started to what actually was on stage. So walk me through a little bit of what was going on there.
Yes. There are some things that I knew to be true to my core, and that's what I thought my story was going to be centered around. So I had initially knew I wanted to talk about how I view the universe and how it plays a part in our lives, how I view relationships. I'm a strong believer. I say this so often that things happen for us, not to us. I do think that the universe delivers people at certain times in our lives, and sometimes we learn lessons. Sometimes they just come and go. You never know. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're there to teach somebody else a lesson. And so I knew that was at the core of the story, but I went back to the very beginning to start. And when I really started to feel all these things, but as we were in the middle of our program, I had a monumental experience happen with a friend. And I was like, nope, this is it. This is the realization that I'm trying to get to at the core. It really embodied how Love Your Mess came to be. It was acknowledging, embracing, being grateful for that friendship, but also being hurt by what happened. I think sometimes we think it needs to be an all or nothing situation. And when it comes to Love Your Mess, my message is no, we can embrace it all. We can honor it all, love it all. And so, yeah, I made that shift, and I appreciate that you were just open and willing to listen to me as I was kind of exploring that opportunity to move through it, and also acknowledge that it was relatable. I think that was a big thing for me too. Again, I want Love Your Mess to be relatable to people, and you just provide validity that yes, we're all going through same things, even if they're different stories.
And it was just so, I don't even know what the word is, serendipitous in a way that, you're talking about loving your mess while you were in the trenches. Like this
Yes.
wasn't like, years ago that you're talking about like, oh, I forgot about this thing that happened, like you were in the trenches. And so I just found that it was just like meant to be, like that story was meant to come out. And it was like universe telling you, Brittany, this is where you need this story to go.
Yes. And I think I had mentioned to you was that the incredible thing to me and what told me this was the right thing was that I found myself getting caught in the first story. I spent days spinning my wheels on what else do I add to it? How do I round this out? And then this event happened, and I was talking with a friend, and she goes, "This is your reckoning," is what she called it. And between that event and that word, I was like, oh my gosh, this was it. And what I couldn't develop in days, I had now developed in hours.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty spectacular. So then to like step out on that stage, and of course everyone's got nerves. It's normal to be nervous and stuff, but how were you feeling the day of? Like to step out there and give the talk like for real, now it's time.
Yeah, it was a mess of emotions. We'll stick with the mess theme.
Okay.
I I was nervous and I've done a number of speaking engagements, but it was different because I was vulnerable. I knew people were listening and watching that are very close to me in my life, and I hadn't said some of these things that were deeply personal, and I wasn't sure what their reaction was going to be. So that I think is where a lot of my fears stemmed from.
Yeah.
At the same time, it was so joyful and incredibly freeing. I loved being on the stage. I loved sharing my story. And you had said your story's not going to be for everyone, but those that it's meant for, like they'll hear it. And those that it was meant for reached out and were so kind. And, the people that you don't know are watching, but are and can say, hey, that was great. I can relate. That was probably the best part of the whole experience.
And I found that true every single time for people is you don't know who's watching. People who've never liked a post, who've never interacted with you. Suddenly you put this vulnerable thing out there into the world and they're like, oh my God, she gets me.
Mhm.
Or I just went through this, or I went, even in coaching, when you shifted and what you're going to talk about, so many of us were like nodding our heads, like, oh my God, yes, we've experienced that too, you
Yes,
know? Yeah. So it's a message that obviously it's a mess and a message that people need to hear.
right. Yes.
So um, let me ask you this then. So then on the other side of this, right, you did have people reaching out to you, but has this like provided any clarity? Because I know you're in the middle kind of a transition, moving into, love your mess and what that looks like. Do you have more clarity, or are you still kind of working out the bugs and trying to figure it all out?
Great question. With Love Your Mess specifically, I don't know as though it provided clarity around that certain project, but as far as clarity around my life and the direction I want to go, this experience and putting it into story form reaffirmed the things I'm not going to settle for in life anymore. And again, I love being on the stage. I think it just made me want to be on the stage even more. So, being willing now at this point to put myself out there to apply for other speaking opportunities where before I just waited for people to contact me.
Yeah, and you're a natural on stage. I mean, when I was watching you day of, I'm like, yeah, you just are a natural on stage.
Oh,
You
thank
have
you.
good chemistry and just good charisma when you're speaking. It doesn't feel rushed. It just some people just have it naturally.
Oh, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this. And everyone, stay tuned. Right up after this interview is Brittany's When story. You get to listen. And then after that, you get to hear her theme song that everyone in this cohort, I wrote them a theme song. So Brittany's song, name, of course, Love Your Mess, will be up after that. So thanks again so much, Brittany.
Oh, thank you. It's been wonderful working with you.
Yeah. And oh, one last thing too is any links that Brittany has will be in the show notes. So we'll get those from you, obviously, and put them in the show notes. So please reach out to Brittany, especially if you're interested in Love Your Mess or even the HR consulting. You never know who's
Perfect.
out there who needs what you have, right? We were just talking about that. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Your story matters, don't let it fade. When everything changed, you were made.
When everything changed, I received a text message that blindsided me yet again. And I say yet again because unfortunately this had happened before. I had been with this friend no more than 20 minutes prior and everything seemed fine. They truly gave no indication that anything was wrong when we were together. But their text message now let me know that nothing was okay. And I quickly found myself getting caught in a damaging narrative of them telling me what my thoughts were of them. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. Yet I found myself apologizing for behavior that made them feel that way and trying to reconcile the situation. I only received a "it is what it is" text back, indicating to me that they had no intention of trying to resolve the issue. And so I let it sit for the night, and in the morning, I prayed on it and thought on it and sent a lengthy follow-up text message back, one that called out a pattern of behavior that I recognized was not mine to fix. I shared with them how I felt about the situation. I let them know that I cared about them, and I set non-negotiables for our friendship to move forward. I simply received a "sounds good, take care" text message back. And damn, did that hurt. It wasn't only painful, but there was no acknowledgement of the effort I put in to try and reconcile. There was no ownership of their actions, and there was no fighting for the friendship. And so I allowed the pain and the loss of that friendship to start to sink in. And that moment wasn't only painful, it was emotionally agile. I didn't run from the ache. I allowed myself to fully feel it, and I let it teach me what I value. And I held space for the pride that I felt in standing up for what I was worthy of and what I needed. I felt like the universe had been preparing me for this moment. I had been taking small actions to build my courage. I had been doing the work in therapy. And now I had this moment and an even greater epiphany. I realized that I had been doing and taking note of all the things I needed to do to secure my spot in other people's worlds, while completely losing sight of what they needed to do to earn a spot in mine. And this realization didn't click into place until a few weeks ago, but it explained a lifetime of choices and relationships that brought both life lessons and beautiful blessings. It was emotional agility that taught me that I could sit in the mess of it all. So I choose to move forward, and I listen to the universe. And I start to take note of the ebb and flow of people moving into my life. And it all stems from that one moment. And so time goes on, and I realize that I am in the fight of my life trying to reclaim an identity that I have lost to a lifetime of written and spoken expectations. A lifetime and the pieces of me that I lost to all of the identities that I had taken on, that of daughter, sister, wife, mother, friend, coworker, and the list goes on. To my own complacency in following societal norms, doing what the good girl was supposed to do, go to college, get a job, be modest, have manners, create a home and a family. That's what I thought life was supposed to look like. And by those standards, I was successful. I was a true badass in all that I set out to do and accomplish. And hear me when I say that I absolutely love and honor all of those components of my life, but I also felt broken in ways that words couldn't describe. And I let those moments teach me that my awareness to this wasn't a weakness, rather it was the first act of rebellion against a life that no longer fit. And I was no longer afraid to speak out to it and reach out for it. I quit a job that had me in golden handcuffs, and let me tell you how I spiraled through that situation. I wasn't happy. I was burnt out. We were in the dreaded COVID era, and for the third and final time, I found myself with a newborn. And every time I found myself on the phone with my own mother, I was in tears. And if a smile happened to grace my face, it was certainly done by force, because there were no smiles. That just happened during those days. I eventually received a job offer for an HR position, a profession that I absolutely loved, and I thought, what a blessing to get me out of this discomfort. But was it? I started asking myself all the questions. Could I continue to support my family? Because it was a huge pay cut. But I'd have more time with my kids. Isn't that what truly mattered? But I also really loved the coworkers I had. Would I be able to foster the similar relationships? And I go back and forth until I finally say, fuck it, I'm going for it. And it was a really great decision until it wasn't. 6 months into my new employment, the leadership team that hired me in was no longer there, and new leadership had taken over. And it was not a smooth transition, to say the least. In fact, we lost the majority of our team. And I found it difficult to show up and be present every day for a leader that had no interest in getting to know me or what my experience was. I heard them say multiple times, I can't understand why they would hire someone from real estate, while completely disregarding my years of experience as a director of HR serving the real estate industry. But it gets better, and I say that seething with sarcasm, because my annual review rolls around and this leader tells me I have no foundational HR knowledge. And I couldn't tell you what was said after that. I honestly stopped listening because it wasn't true. And my head went to, I can't believe I left a job where I knew I was valued to find happiness, only to find myself in a job where I was still not happy, but I had to prove my worth over. No, thank you. Had this leader taken time to actually get to know me, they would have learned that I was actually really great at finding connections and building relationships. And so I had a community of people that wanted to work with me. And so I quit my job, and I started my own business on my own terms. And that career move wasn't just a pivot, but it was me putting emotional agility into practice. I was choosing alignment over approval. I have to be honest with you, though. That alignment was fueled by whispered prayers and spontaneity, because I had no idea what the hell I was doing as a new business owner. Recalling a conversation I had with my mother, and she was standing next to me, and she had said, you know, Britt, you're kind of going about this backwards. And I remember looking up at her. I was sitting at the table, and I said, I am well aware And I'm going to continue to operate this way because if I don't keep moving forward, I will be paralyzed by the fear. I knew I was sitting in a mess. But you know what? That mess didn't steer me wrong. My first couple years in business were incredibly successful. I overshot every goal that I set for myself. And the most beautiful thing, my business, Human Element Consulting, honors all of those messy components of us, our human elements that make us each unique. And I get to work with leaders every day to honor, acknowledge, and support those elements through HR practices. So a different type of success begins to rise, one rooted in self-respect and quiet pride. But life doesn't stop to celebrate it. It keeps swirling in its unpredictable rhythm. And again, I take note of the ebb and flow of the people that the universe bring into my life. Some with light, some with lessons, and some leave as swiftly as they came. And I also take note of the qualities that I admire in others and traits that I never wish to hold myself. And it's that beautiful contrast that creates a wisdom that I carry forward. And so, I move forward yet again. And I am choosing alignment. And those choices don't feel logical or safe, but they feel true, and there's no other way I can explain it. But I will tell you that it took a whole lot of trust and practice to master it within myself. It's reaching out to a woman at the gym whose post I saw online. And I say, hey, you don't know me, but something you posted resonated. Are you open to having coffee? And sure enough, that woman who is sitting here today becomes my best friend and confidant, the one I can tell my deepest, darkest thoughts to. And she never flinches or passes judgment. It's the coworker that I see at a new place of employment, and I know her from somewhere, but I can't quite pinpoint where. And so I take a chance to speak it into existence and say, hey, did you ever go to the golf course I used to work at? The answer was no. But it got the conversation going, and sure enough, we worked for separate organizations that occupied the same building. And so our paths had crossed several times in the hallways and stairwell. And that individual was not only a coworker, but she went on to be a friend, a mentor, and now we are each other's biggest cheerleaders, not only in life, but as business owners. And it's meeting someone new and knowing there's something there, even if your energy and behavior don't quite match. But the little voice in my head clicks on and says, keep trying to find that connection. They're going through things too. And sure enough, a friendship blooms. And this person becomes an incredible safe space where I learn so many new things about myself. That said, remember how this story started? It's that same individual, and misalignment reared its head. And that same voice that told me to find that connection came back on and spoke a little louder and said, it's time for you to care about yourself as much as you care about them. And so while my heart might not have been ready to let go of that relationship, I did set it down. It was no longer mine to carry. And it's those moments of misalignment that create the most doubt in us. We start asking ourselves, are we crazy? Am I overthinking this? Is it really that bad? But then I think about someone closest to me who's told me, I forget that you need me because you are so damn independent. And what they failed to acknowledge was their own miss on words, that I had stood directly in front of them, that I had spoke very clearly over the phone to them and spoke the words, I need you. And they chose not to be present, even though they were my person. So yeah, sometimes it was that bad. And I had no choice but to be strong and independent and figure it out. And in those moments, I found myself building steel walls of resentment that felt damn near impossible to tear down, and yet I tried because I knew I wasn't meant to be surrounded by metal, but by space, and that shielding myself only prevented my own light from shining out. And so I drew on my wisdom, and I drew on my intuition, and I allowed it to fuel that fire in my soul. And I melted those walls and forged a spine of steel instead. One that holds my head high, one that lets me know that I can bear the weight of my own emotions, and that I no longer need to shield myself from others or others from me. Emotional agility isn't about being unshaken. It's how we choose to rise and stand in our power even when shaken. And we all have that within us. I call this my soul's reckoning. A reckoning that's not breakdown after breakdown, but breakthrough after breakthrough. And emotional agility gave me the courage to stop performing and start becoming. And every day I choose to be authentic and true, not only to the world, but more importantly to myself. And the most important lesson I've learned is that when I lead and honor the emotion that I have, and I truly let it flow, I always win. Leading with emotion has allowed me to collect an incredible community of individuals, ones who are true badasses in their own rights. And I would say some are standing here today. They're the ones that lift me up and support me when I lose my way, because that inevitably happens from time to time. They are the true speakers. They are the ones that tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear, because they know I always strive for growth. And the most beautiful thing, they know these moments are really hard, and so they create and hold that sacred space to allow the emotion to flow. This is why I've created the Love Your Mess community, to share these incredible individuals with you, to help you feel supported and seen, and to stand in your power, and more importantly, boldly step into who you are, even if you don't know who that is yet. So here's what I know to be true so deep in my soul that I so desperately need other women to hear and know. When you listen to the whispers of the universe, when you lean into the chaos instead of run from it, when you look for the magic buried deep in the mess, and when you rise to the challenges instead of take the easier path, you not only survive, but you transform and you thrive. And the mess that we find ourselves standing in day to day, this isn't a detour in life. Rather, it's our unique roadmap that each of us carries. It's that sacred terrain where we unearth our truest selves, where we refine our purpose, and where that love, that deep, messy, unapologetic love for oneself and others takes root. I have learned to love my mess, the spirals, the tears, the steel walls, the nudges, whispered prayers, and the mistakes. It's my mess, and it's bold, and it's beautiful, and it's the birthplace of every brave decision I have made and will continue to make. So I don't stand in front of you as somebody who has it all figured out, far from it, in fact. But I have learned to listen. I've learned to trust the nudges of the universe. I have learned to embrace my mess. I have learned to dance and celebrate in the magic. And in doing so, I've learned the most liberating truth of all. You don't have to have a clean story for it to be beautiful. And my when moment isn't something that is just one moment from the past, but it is something that I live and breathe every single day. I have truly learned to love my mess, and I invite you to join the Love Your Mess community so that you can feel supported and seen and learn to love your mess too, because you are so incredibly worthy of it. Thank you.
I've walked through the fire, I've weathered the rain. to love your mess. I stood in the silence when I felt unheard. So I stood in the shadows and questioned my worth. But I found my voice in the dark of the night. Now I carry the chaos and call it my light. When my heart says yes, but my mind says not yet, I've learned to trust the roads I won't forget. It's okay to love your mess. Some people were chapters, not the whole book. I turn the page, no second look in the healed version of who I am. They don't belong next to where I stand. Love your mess, love your fire, love the storm that lifts you higher, love the scars, love the fight, love the dark that shaped the light, love your truth. With every breath, you're braver when you love your mess. It's okay to love your mess.